Hey everybody, it's David Pingree. We're back at Angel Stadium of Anaheim. This time, instead of looking at the factory race bikes and really diving into those, we want to show you how the other side lives, the privateers. And you know you're getting close when you're butted up to the porta potties and you get that sweet smell of fecal matter and urinal cakes really kind of wafting through the air, and we're there. So we're going to get back into the deep end of the pits here, go through some of the privateer bikes and show you how those guys are living. All right, we're in the Livin' 100 pits, Nut Up Industries. Josh Hansen and Matt Bisceglia riding out of this truck. Kenny Watson, the old RCH team manager, is over here helping quite a bit, and he's rounded them up some factory support, some help from JGR, those guys. But you'll start noticing the difference between these and the factory bikes and some of the subtleties. They do have some cool works parts, starting up top, even this clutch adjuster. This is a factory Suzuki item. The clamp, the bar mount, all this is works, but you'll notice some of the pitting and stuff in there. That's because that's probably an RCH product from last year that's getting recycled. Still works good, still looks good, but doesn't have that shiny brand new feel, right? The new car smell is gone. Teams like this that are supported or factory supported or have some money, you'll get the tie bolt kits and some of that cool trickery. And you know, instead of works kit stuff, you're running either maybe a kit or maybe a couple year old A kit or even production stuff that's just revalved. Race Tech taking care of Matt Bisceglia here. And then down front, they've got W building their wheels, Talon hubs, which is a great product. A lot of the top teams use those with Excel rims. And they got a Works factory Suzuki carbon front disc guard, which is real nice. And as you work your way back, this is actually a JGR product, the skid plate, all this carbon, and they're gonna be selling these. So if you're in the market for something for a Suzuki, check JGR's site. They're gonna have some other products as well, but this is one of their cool ones that mounts right up, protects everything really well, looks awesome. And JGR also doing the motors on these. Now they don't sell them, but those guys over there, Dean Baker, doing a great job. The guy's one of the sharpest engine builders in the business. And he, basically this is what RCH ran, or JGR ran last year rather. And so a spec that they had, and they kind of passed down some of those parts. So we're helping them out. Henson, a go-to, the clutch and these covers, just a little bit nicer looking, a little stronger. You get the Raptor pegs, which are great pegs, titanium. And then as you come back, I mean, this is like a sign of a privateer here. They didn't have the budget to get new stickers between races. I mean, this is how it works. Sometimes parts are hard to get, and you definitely go a couple rounds on them. So these companies, teams will usually have support from an exhaust company. Yosh helping these guys out, giving them the best stuff they can give them. Again, Race Tech on the suspension. You see the Henson stuff on the side. And these cases are factory Suzuki, as is these covers here. So they do get some of those bits and pieces and parts, but like I said, these are probably leftovers from last year, just getting recycled. So these are great bikes, keeps these guys competitive, but as you can see, there's a little bit of bling that's missing from this to the factory bike. All right, we're in the IB Corp E-Terra Twisted Development race team pit. And this is the new team, if you're not aware, kind of being run by Twisted Development, IB Corp funding it. And they did that competition where they tried out some different riders for the last spot. The guy who got that spot is Michael Leib. Michael's obviously a longtime privateer rider, a lot of talent, a lot of potential, a lot of injuries. So hopefully he can stay healthy this year, get some good results for these guys. We know the equipment's there in terms of motor. Let's run around this bike and see what it's all about. So again, a lot of this stuff, when we're talking to the team manager, it's all stuff that they bought, even, you know, from Cycra to even the chain and sprockets. He says they're buying. They get discounts on the stuff, but it's not being given to the team free like you would see on a factory team. So they're running A-kit stuff. They got Enzo valving it, so it's great suspension. That's about as good as you can do, and if you're not running full work stuff. They do stock hubs down here, but you can see they do like a Cerakote on them to change the color, make them look cool. Really does look nice. Again, Cycra on the plastic. So instead of carbon fiber, you go to something a little more affordable. Still does the job, just not quite as blingy. Henson's a big part of a lot of teams. They run this stuff. It's just high quality. I'm sure he's giving them a deal on them. Maybe they get a few free, and then after that they pay a certain price. And the pegs are stock, but they put a little lift kit on this guy for Leib because he's got shorter legs. And then you'll see, like, this bike's got some tie on it. Not all the bolts, but most of them, I would say. And again, they're buying all that. And a lot of these teams, again, they'll be giving exhaust, FMF sponsoring these guys, and they're probably giving them a good deal because Twisted Development does a lot of engine work for different people, and I'm sure there's some reciprocation there. As you work your way around, like I mentioned, they're paying for chain and sprockets, which you think a factory team at this level wouldn't have to, but there's only so much budget to go around in these companies. So again, all stock cases, they're taking and just kind of sanding and polishing things, getting rid of this outer cover here, just running the inside case guard to make it look tighter and cleaner. They welded on some radiator braces here. That's all just kind of fabbed up by the mechanics there, or they'll take it to a company that does that work. And then a lot of the other stuff you'll see, and this is from factory teams to privateers, but especially the privateers, they rely heavily on works connection. They make really high quality parts, and they'll also make the bike look really trick. Everything from the engine plugs to these to chain blocks, you name it. Those guys make really cool products, anodized in any color. So it gives the bike a really trick factory look without obviously running factory parts or works parts. And on the brakes, they're running Galfer rotors, oversized rotor with an oversized hanger there. And great brakes, not really gonna need more than that, but again, it's all stuff you can buy. There really isn't anything on this motorcycle you can't get online and order. So that says a lot. If these guys go out and put in some results, that says a lot obviously for Twisted Development. Those guys do some really, really quality engine work, and it'll be cool to see these guys have a good year. All right, well, we've kind of wandered to the outer fringes of the pit here, and you start to find the real privateers, guys in their van, showing up and doing it. This bike right here, this is Josh Greco's bike, Hesperia rider who spent the entire last season on this thing, practicing, racing, did the entire Enduro Cross series on this thing, and he's racing Supercross on it tonight. So I'm not imagining he gets a whole lot of free stuff, maybe some discounts from companies. Phil's Pipes may be hooking him up. He's got a Recluse clutch, which is a great product, super durable. You have to be if this is a bike you're racing Enduro Cross and practicing on and racing Supercross on. Privateer Graphics, that's his own company, doing something a little special for the fans. The grips, not new every weekend. These things are kind of worn custom with his thumbprint right here. He's got the levers that fold up from flow, that way when you go down, you're not bending them, breaking them, having to buy new ones. My guess is the plastic's pretty old. Little mustache here, shows little Josh's flair. And it looks like to me just stock wheel sets, which is pretty impressive. If you're riding a stock bike and using stock wheels, that says a lot about that manufacturer's wheel set, because that's a lot of abuse these things are taking. WP suspension on here done by Graham. This is a really, really good suspension builder. He does an awesome job. Used to be a factory tuner. Now got his own business. And then you start to see, like, obviously this guy's got a lot of flow products on here, the foot pegs, hammerhead shifters and different parts and pieces. And he's definitely giving these guys some endurance testing. But you'll catch, like here, if you look, this shifter's actually rubbing on the side case. I mean, that's just something you don't see on a works bike. TM Design Works on the back. This is really, really good products, real durable. And these privateers need to look at that. Also, you'll notice the heavy wear on the sprocket. When you're a privateer paying for your own crap, man, you got to run it as long as you can. New tires in the back? Nope. Running what he's got. I like it. So as you can see, there is certainly a gap between what the factory guys are racing and what they're racing on here. I mean, when you've put so much time on it, you've actually worn metal material off the shock body. It might be time to look for a new bike. All right, we found our way into the BWR MX Athletics pits. Carlen Gardner's bike. There's a couple of guys under this tent all riding together, and Brian White is out of Illinois. This guy does a lot of his own engine work. He's a race tech guy, so he's got a suspension business as well back there, and he's really helping put together this team and fund it. So we got actually a really nice looking bike. These guys are doing a great job. It's probably on a limited budget. So there are obviously mica metals for the clamps and bars, Ride Engineering clamps. Ride Engineering does a lot of machine work like this, a lot of link arms. He does a really good job, really high quality stuff. Obviously it's standard suspension, just valved by Race Tech. So a lot of times they'll do a coating. These aren't, but you can do that. Another, like a key sponsor on a team like this is Bolt Motorcycle Hardware. So these guys make nuts and bolts for every manufacturer, and they'll make complete kits so you can completely rebuild a bike. They make little track kits you can take with you. It's just cool if you're a privateer and you got nuts and bolts falling out or just getting beat up. It's great to be able to replace them and make sure your bike's obviously going to stay together. So they got some DID rims, and a lot of teams will just mount them to the stock hubs, because really stock hubs have gotten to be pretty good these days. You know, back in the 80s you used to break them a lot, but it's not really necessary to have the Works magnesium ones anymore. The stock ones are really good. So as you work your way around, this is another Bill's Pipes team. Bill's setting them up with, you know, probably some free product here and there, and then at a certain point discounted. Torque One does a lot of their little parts and pieces, as does Works Connection. You can see like the engine plugs and stuff like this is all Works Connection. Another Recluse clutch, which again, you're either running Recluse or Hinson for the most part of these teams. They make the high quality parts. And a lot of stock stuff, you know, as you work your way back, it's just stock parts and pieces. And you know, the good news is stock bikes have come a long, long ways over the years. Dirt Tricks doing their sprockets on these bikes, and you got SSI decals. And again, even having a decal company that takes good care of you makes a big difference as a privateer, because you're not able to tear the bike down to the frame and rebuild it every week, but if you can keep good graphics on it, at least it looks nice. The V-Force air boot, this is a big boost for a lot of guys, makes a big difference in the horsepower. And we keep seeing these radiator braces. Man, especially if you're a privateer, tipping over and bending a brake in a radiator is tough. So this is really important. Either a Works Connection brace. These are actually fabbed by a company out here called Metal Tech. Chuck over there has been doing bikes since back when I rode for Pro Circuit in the 90s. He's been around forever. So it does a great job. And again, you see the little parts and pieces they got here, Works Connection stuff, but a lot of it's stock. You know, these hangers that you'd see either Works or Hinson or something else. Yes, on a privateer team, you don't have that luxury, it's stock. And these pegs are actually pretty cool. So this is a stock peg. He just had a guy grind these down and then add these teeth on the top. So for a fraction of the cost of buying some nice titanium pegs, you get something with a nice wide platform, really sharp, and something that's stock, so it's gonna last a long time as well. Hey guys, so we stopped by a team here that really caught my eye as we were walking by. It's the AJE Motorsports team, based out of Phoenix, and these guys have a really sharp looking setup. They got Cole Martinez and Justin Starling riding for them on some really pretty Husqvarna bikes. And a lot of this stuff, again, you can buy, but they did a great job of putting this whole thing together. So Mika Metals helping them with bars, chains, sprockets, stuff like that. The X-Trig clamps, which have become really popular, gives guys a certain feel and characteristic with the cutaways like that you can't get with a solid clamp. So guys are really liking that. And Enzo doing their WP stuff, which is kind of an interesting combination. Again, the guys at Enzo do an awesome job. A lot of guys rely on that. As you get down here, you can see they got W wheel sets, Talon hubs, and the DID rims, which is a solid package there. Running some Renegade fuel, which we've mentioned last time. You know, they can do some more special blends. It's a smaller company, but they make really good products as well. When you get down here, you'll see Pro Circuit built their exhaust system, and this is a custom exhaust system for their engine package. And the engine builder is a guy, it's a company called Skazi. It's out of Arizona as well. And this guy was a mechanic for Jason Anderson before and did some help with Moose Can back as a practice mechanic. So he's pretty sharp with the engines, does a really good job. You can see they've taken the stock cases and done some acadizing. They got their tie kit from Metal Tech. It's a company that a lot of race teams use. And again, they're buying this stuff. Recluse clutches. You can see they just added some grip tape here. A lot of teams will do this just to grab, kind of give guys a better grip on the side of the bike. And then the pegs, this is a Metal Tech product as well. We saw this on Michael Leib's bike. They just take a stock foot peg, grind it flat, and then he welds on this little top piece that's super sharp. It's got some raised edges on the outside there to keep your foot from sliding off. And so it's just a cost-effective way to make a really good peg. As you roll toward the back, they're running the Galfer rotors, and they're running Pirelli tires. Again, you don't see a whole lot of teams running these, but they're quite big in Europe. But for Supercross, not as much exposure over here, but really good products. Guts Racing, these seat foams that are a little bit lighter than stock, and great covers. Some Nihilo Concepts parts and pieces up here with the billet cap. You'll see they're running a little tribute to Tom White, who recently passed away. He was an icon in the sport. Started White Brothers. Now as you roll down, you'll see again, not a whole lot to do to these engines. So the Skazi guys do all the head work. Really the bottom ends are standard, and they're so good stock that they come with the Pankel crank. You don't really need to do much to these. They're really quick right out of the box. So you just see kind of the tie bits and pieces that look really nice, the pegs, and then the carbon skid plate, which is it's the same company that makes the factory stuff. This guy's company is called P3 out of West Virginia, and he actually sells it under that name, but you'll see those same skid plates on the works bikes. And then up top, they went with a Brembo master cylinder up here for the clutch, and they went to an oversized front brake master cylinder as well to give a little bit more power. Steel braided brake line, just gives you a little more stopping power up front. But these guys doing a really good job. This is a beautiful looking bike, beautiful looking setup. All right, we're in the Team Tedder Monster Energy KTM team. These guys switching over from green to orange this year. And interestingly enough, he's riding the 17 factory edition model, so 17 and a half. He's on an engine lease program from KTM, so I don't know if those are just motors they had left over and that was a deal they put together. Not sure exactly the ins and outs of it, but interesting that he's on those models. But again, these KTMs come so ready to go. There's not a whole lot to do to them. So if you've got the factory engine, then it's just parts and pieces and things you like. So Dakota's running the Renthal setup, sticking with a lot of the stock parts and pieces. X-Trig clamps, which we've seen a lot of. Very, very popular with privateer guys. And he's on the WP suspension, the cone valve stuff. So they obviously make an air fork, and the cone valve is a spring setup version of that. It's something that a lot of the people like. If you like the feel of a spring fork, this is kind of your go-to. W wheels, they got kite hubs with DID rims, so a nice setup there with the oversized rotors. Galfer. And as you work your way around the side, again, titanium bits and pieces here, but other than the engine itself, which is a KTM motor that they lease, so it's got some of the work stuff on the sides of it, but it's pretty basic. They do the Nihilo Concepts pegs. These are really nice pegs, all billet. Renthal chain wheels, R-case chains. You get some of the Acropovic carbon down here. He's done a pretty good job of bolting on the parts and pieces that look good and work well. Going to give these guys some reliability. They do a deal with FMF, obviously, and a lot of times, you know, they'll be on a program where they'll get a couple of pipes, and then if they damage them, they can get anything fixed or refurbed for free, but if they want to buy more, they have to buy them at a certain cost. That's kind of a deal a lot of privateer teams will get. And then the interesting thing is, this is true with any privateer, you start putting it into the main on a consistent basis, getting some good results, the parts start flowing in. So that's just the way it goes. So again, full factory engine that he's leased, carbon fiber down here, that's all Acropovic. And you can see on the front of the FMF here, a lot of times they'll run this extra skin on the front to protect it from dings and dents. That's real big in the Nationals. You'll see that on just about every bike because the rocks and roost is so much worse there. Team Tedder, good looking bikes. All right, we found our way into the 5150 energy drink Yamaha team. These guys have been around for a little while now. They keep kind of expanding and growing. And they got Kyle Chisholm under the tent this year. I'm here with Craig Monty, who is team manager.
Team manager.
All right. So they've got a pretty interesting deal going on with the motor. It's a collaboration between a lot of different people. I know you've got DASA, Twisted Development, you've got some GYTR. Tell us a little bit about what goes into building this whole engine.
Well, first you start off with the stock package. The Yamaha 250F is a great package right off the bat. And then, you know, we use the GYTR cams. Obviously, we recam them to a race spec. We have our heads cut by DASA, which, you know, gives us a better flowing valve job. And then we do use Crankworks for the cranks. We have them balanced and polished for a little bit, reduce the friction. And then we also use DASA for the tumbling of all our transmissions. And then from there, once the motor is built, Jamie from Twisted's helped us out with a little bit of mapping with Vortex ignition boxes.
Yeah, so a lot of love, a lot of different moving parts and pieces in there, literally and figuratively. And the tumbling with the gears and everything in the tranny just takes off any imperfections and burrs, lets it spin a little smoother, reduces friction. Do you guys, a lot of teams will do cryo as well after they tumble it?
Yeah, we've tried it a little bit on certain parts. Cryo's probably good on a part that that's going to fail. It's hard when you get cryo treatment because you can't tell what's been done.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some, DLC. We use DLC pins. The buckets, we do have them coated with a WPC coating. And we coat the cylinders and the piston rings. So friction, it's all about reduce the friction to get a little more power.
Yeah, and that's, the kind of the things when I was managing a team that we found, it was like, there isn't one thing that makes a huge difference. It's all the little pieces. You anodize this, you coat that, you tumble the gears, you do all that. When you add it all together, it equals the horsepower on the dyno or whatever. So a lot of love goes into these things. And also when we get around to the suspension, SDI doing their stuff, which is a relatively new company to some people, but the guys running that have been around forever. Dan Worley's been in this sport for a long time. And I was asking about this. A lot of the coating you see on the stuff that's green is a tinitrite. It's pretty common. It's been around for quite a while. This is a new version of it that he says is a little more durable, doesn't flake off like those other ones would, and gives you a good balance between reducing friction and also keeping your reliability. When you get to the front, some neat things on these hubs as well. So it's a stock hub that they turn down and then polish and then anodize, and then they actually do some laser engraving to put their logos and things on there. So I love seeing parts and pieces like this when a team will take the time to really make them the way they want them. They're running the Galfer wave rotors on here, Excel rims. As you work your way back, you'll see X-Trig clamps, which we've seen a lot of Works connection parts and pieces, ODI bars and grips on here. These guys are, again, you'll see these radiator braces. That's huge. Just protecting your radiators. These guys will a lot of times lower the radiators or extend them, make them bigger. So you want to protect that investment. And then Hinson clutch components again, like I mentioned, we see a lot of that. And the pegs, these are the MetTech pegs that we see. And these guys take them, he said, and they'll move them back or down or up to kind of, suit whatever rider is. Kyle's a pretty tall guy, so maybe these are dropped down a little bit.
Yeah, pretty much just standard. Kyle's pretty typical average test rider, so he does like a standard height subframe, standard seat.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting. A lot of riders will cut down the subframe, but like I mentioned, Kyle's pretty tall. I would have guessed he liked lowered pegs, but I guess he's running the stock ones. Again, more Works connection stuff there. The hubs that we talked about again in the rear, all the stock stuff, but they make them look trick. And then they use sponsored by Bolt motorcycle hardware again. It's just a great way to be able to replace nuts and bolts that fall off. You can get those kits. They have a Yamaha track kit or a complete kit you can build a whole bike with. So as you work your way around, you'll see FMF. And they got a really cool carbon guard on here. You got to run the guards on these pipes because they get so hot. These headers will burn right through your boots and pants. And a lot of GYTR parts. As a Yamaha team, obviously, they want to use that as much as they can. And it's great quality stuff as well. And then Costa Rica Unlimited, one of the guys involved with this team runs that organization. Trips down through Costa Rica, trail riding, pretty cool deal. So a lot of different people involved in making this bike the way it is. And as you can see by it pulling Kyle around, he's a big dude, this thing works well.